Chapter 1. The Mournstone, as cold as winter ice in a stormy blizzard. The silver-grey tombstone felt this way as I had placed my hand on it, with a degree of a complex guilt. The frigid temperature was almost as unbearable as the sorrow I felt for my grandfather's passing. The memories I shared with my grandfather can no longer be added onto with any new memories. Those memories are now like a closed historic book, but will never receive any new info to its contents. With my knees in the soaked dirt, I start to feel a bit of remorse from the indirect decision of not being involved more in his life. That hard truth is haunting. I set down the bouquet of flowers on his grave, which gives off the aroma of distinct fruit which one shouldn't eat. I stay kneeled and stunned, considering that I could have been there for him more. Like a broken record, the thought plays in my head, taunting me and putting me at fault. I guess we don't value something as much until it's gone. The sun is hiding, but the sons of sun remain amassed and present in our town, domesticated and forged into our own artificial, man-made light to suit our needs. The sons of sun rest easy on tall metal pillars, about the height of 2 grown men. The pillars stand sturdy and straight, never to falter. Present are the clouds, which are so dull it seems as if it were night. Thick clouds of black and grey, filled with seeping tears of God. Silent rain fills the sound of my own shed of rain, blissful to the soul once it's in pain. Like an ice pack on a bruise from some accident, hurt, but healing. Frantic shudders accompany my tears, blended with the drizzle from above. One can no longer tell which teardrop belongs to who. The gloomy atmosphere only blighted me to dry out even more. However, a thudding pair of feet approached, distracting me from my oppressive condition. My vision blurred from tears as I veered my eyes to the approaching figure. I wiped my eyes. Oh, my son. He's in a much better place now. We should let him rest. But, Mother, I could have spent more time with him, and now he is gone. I feel so terrible since I hadn't spent more time with him when he was still here with us, I said as I cried softly. Gregory, it's not your fault that he is gone. Our time will come for all of us at some point in our lives. I am sure that he is smiling from above for being here today, so don't try to burden this on your shoulders. I just feel so much regret. I took my grandfather and my sister for granted. I want to join them already. Plus, it's probably much less wretched up there, with nothing but joy and smiles. Do not let your mind run astray with such egregiously harmful thoughts. Their time has arrived, and we will part when our time comes too, my dear. My mother said to me as if I were a toddler, as she then added, Well, when you are ready, join me and the others to thank Mr. Thomas. The man works so hard to run the crematorium by himself, take care of the cemetery, and do all the cremations. It's a stressful and tiring responsibility for just one man. You are right. We should thank him for giving him such a beautiful funeral and being able to help us financially. With everything that has been going on, things have been getting tough for us, and it feels like things keep getting worse. But I am very grateful to Mr. Thomas. The least I can do is give him thanks for helping us with all of this. I stood up with a throbbing pain in my knees from the prolonged kneeled state I had been in. I was startled by a drop of rain as it started to downpour, and the arrival of mist came in. I began to walk towards the crematorium, right behind my mother, who was significantly ahead of me by now. The small droplets of water on the gravel path made me flick my hands, reminding me that my hands were dripping off with water. Chapter 2. The Play. The dirt and gravel on the path started to become more moist and shaded from the rain. The weather reminds me of the day my sister passed when she was still so young, about 8 years old. She was such a sweet angel with a pure heart. My sister didn't die a peaceful or normal death. She was murdered, and no witness was present to give testimony of the perpetrator. I still try to solve the mystery. The only thing I had seen was the fog-covered motorized vehicle of the murderer driving away. It was the year 1925, around 7 years ago since my sister was murdered in cold blood. Some vicious and mind-twisted being had murdered my little sister when she was most vulnerable. It was far too late before anyone had noticed she was gone. That sick bastard still lurks somewhere in this town of Greenwich. Adults and children alike still go missing every now and then. I have a feeling that the reason behind all of these disappearances are because of the same person who killed my sister. The criminal who murdered my sister is still among this town of ours and blending in as one of us, slowly tearing up our community one by one. My sister was on stage with her classmates during a musical performance play in the 3rd grade. My mother, father, brother and I were there to watch my sister's play. I hadn't the slightest idea that on that very night, I was about to lose my sister forever. The play had started with a winter musical made up by the school with some of the students involved. She was so small and adorable, seeing her try her best up there with the rest. She did really well on her performance on stage with the others. She really stood out. A little while after the song, my sister went backstage since a new song had started, and it was another group's turn to go and perform. During this time backstage, no one was watching any of the children, and at some point during the play, someone had entered the backstage door and taken my sister the same way they entered. Once the teacher and director noticed she went missing, chaos broke loose, and everyone went into a panic. Families stayed together, and the law enforcement searched with no evidence to be found. When I ran out the backstage door, the only thing I had seen was the motorized vehicle with an almost anthropoidal-shaped box in the back of the vehicle as the murderer fled away. So now I have to try and figure out what happened and who committed such a vigorous act. For the past 7 years, there has been no good evidence on who it could be. I've become a detective and security guard on a part-time basis. This was also a way for me to have an excuse in investigating further to avenge my sister's death and making sure that the bastard would pay for what he's done.
Chapter 3. The Familiar Box.
My mother and I grew nearer to the crematorium after I had zoned out the whole walk over to it, busy rethinking the past. We soon advanced up the stairs and made our way into the dark and eerie crematorium. The walls are lined with dark velvet and black painted designs over top of the dark velvet paint. Large pillars to hold the large roof over 30 feet tall. Stairs that are a bit timid to step on because of the slippery, strong marble material they are made of. As we approached the front desk, we wiped our feet on the carpet, which looked like it had been made for someone to make a royal entrance. Stretched from the front doors to the desk, which was made of sturdy wood, and had been sanded and painted black. Soon footsteps approached, and we then stood straight and alert as the echo of those footsteps occurred. "Good evening, Mrs. Bauer, and good evening to you too, mister," he asked me as he looked at me with a raised eyebrow. "Gregory. You can call me Gregory," I said. "Evening, Sir Thomas. This is my son, Gregory Bauer. I apologize for the late introduction. Gregory and I also wanted to say thanks for the wonderful service you have done for our family." "Oh my, a Bauer. No worries, Mrs. Bauer. It's the least I could do. And also, I'd love to get to know the young lad better if that's okay. I didn't know you had another son." "Please, call me Shannon. And why, of course you can, Mr. Thomas. The boy has always been more or less of an open individual, so I think it'll be great for him to talk to you." "I appreciate it, Shannon. I'll show the kid around the place." "Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Please let me know if there's anything I could help you with. Best be out in 5 minutes, Gregory. Your father and brother have been waiting in the car for a while now." "Okay, Mother, I will," I say in an uneasy tone. I apologize for referring to you as a kid. It seems you're all grown up. Exactly how old are you, son? I'm 28, sir. I looked down as I walked through an open doorway, following Mr. Thomas, to not seem nosy. But I can't help but catch swift glances of the building's interior design. Walls with antique Gothic architecture. Some more paintings and candles dimly light the path of the hallways. Yeah, definitely not a kid anymore, huh? You're all grown up, but still a young man starting out your life. Those green eyes of yours mean good luck, you know. That's what my mother used to say to me. Probably because I have green eyes too. Though he has green eyes, they only appear red because of the hue of the candles beaming in the pools of his eyes like a swirling fire, I thought as Thomas chuckled with a confident and proud tone. Where do you do the cremations? I asked. Oh, right over this way near the back of the building. We made our way through several doorways until we briefly halted at a door before opening it to enter. I forgot to remind you, and I hate for bringing this up now, but your grandfather's cremation should be complete in about 7 days, so I'll deliver. Mr. Thomas gets interrupted from a distant car horn emanating from outside. I'm sorry, Mr. Thomas, but I think it's been past 5 minutes. My family is waiting for me outside. Thanks for the tour, I said in a relieved voice. Oh, it's no worries, son. If you'd like a full tour, feel free to pass by, and I'd be happy to show you around, and how I do the cremations. Also, remember in 7 days' time, I'll come by with the cremains, which I will deliver myself. I'll consider it. Thanks, Sir Thomas. Have a great rest of your day. I began to walk out of the building as I noticed a glare from the candles reflecting off the shiny metal on a coffin-like box, similar to the one I had seen on the day my sister was taken. Sir? I stuttered as I turned back with confusion. Yes, Gregory. Is something the matter? Those boxes. Oh, why, those are coffins, but a bit shaped differently, usually for smaller people or short people. I get those from a manufacturer in the outskirts of London. Do you know where I can find him, or what his name is? Any contact information? My. Are you going to open a new cemetery? Well, we do need one, since this is the only one anywhere near London. Why, yes. Here is his number, and if he doesn't answer the call, then call again. He only answers to people he knows, unless someone calls twice. He said to me as he handed the information on freshly written paper. Okay, thank you, Sir Thomas. I appreciate your help, I say in a more enthusiastic tone. No problem, Gregory. I'll see you soon. I continue to walk to the exit to go back to my family, as I have a wicked smile on my face, realizing I might be closer to finding out who did such an unforgivable deed so many years back. I brush my shoulders to get rid of the water as I get into the vehicle, hearing my mother shouting at me for taking too long, now knowing that at long last I might have found the first clue to this murder mystery. With London being quite big, but Greenwich being small, it's hard to tell how far the person could be, but knowing where to reach the manufacturer, it has been narrowed down to the outskirts of London for now. If the manufacturer has records of purchases over the years, then possibly I could track down who he had sold to around the time of my sister's death. Not only would this narrow down who the culprit is, but almost indefinitely find him eventually. As I rode back home, I couldn't get the idea of revenge out of my head. The thrill of putting a monster down and brought to justice couldn't suffice me more. On paper, it sounds easy enough, but for a criminal that hasn't been caught in over 7 years, it's going to be hard to track him down for sure. People like that are going to be certain to hide their tracks well. In all my years of training, I'll have to exercise every last skill of investigation to finally bring this person to justice.
Chapter 4. Daybreak.
5 days ago, I received a clue towards this unsolved mystery. That clue I received was the number of the man who created those special coffins for smaller people. I smelt the perfumes of quality as I awoke, a mix of a scent that one could be familiar with in the morning, a delicacy I could already taste, though I had only inhaled. Shortly after, my mother called me for breakfast, confirming my inquiry I was going through when I was savoring the fragrance. Getting dressed in my uniform felt easier than usual, hastened by adrenaline surging in my head like a child with a sugar rush. I finished my morning wake routine, left the door swung open, and declared thudding steps towards the tempting morning fare laid out on the table. A spread of gossiped foods I had imagined. Toasted bread from the local baker in town. Sausages and bacon were a bit charred, but it didn't change my lustful stomach. Eggs, of course, were the most eye-catching, bright yellow and abundant. I served myself every bit of selection from the panoply of delights. I scarfed down an alarmingly large amount of food, especially since it was just morning. Suddenly, my mother spoke out in a concerning voice. "Son, you can't eat all that without a beverage. Here, take some water. You'll choke without it." "Thanks, Mum. I guess I didn't think about that," I said before reaching out for the drink. "Son, you seem unusually energetic today. Is there a reason you're all riled up?" My father said as he added, "Your leg has been jumping restlessly under the table," he acknowledged, making me look down at my leg, not noticing the almost involuntary jumping motion of my leg. "Yeah, it's just that today my case for the investigation on the manufacture of those smaller coffins I'd talked about finally were reviewed and approved for further inspection," I remarked at my father proudly. "That's great to hear, son. However, I don't want you in any danger. Remember that a murderer is dangerous, so please let the others in the police department deal with that perpetrator when the time comes." I gave a heartfelt nod. "Yes, Father, I understand. I'll try not to get too involved in meeting him face to face." I got up after the meal had been devoured. Even after breakfast, my brother was still fast asleep in his room. Guess he won't wake up for some time, like a bear in hibernation. A walk to the police station wasn't far, only mere minutes, really. Guess the distance was a blessing since I don't have a car. On the way, the sky seemed to have never changed, only it was no longer weeping and a fuss lighter in colour. Less dull, but just as thick and grey. Like a pair of shoes, the sidewalks matched those colours. The streets bustled with moaning cars heading to meaningless destinations, I assume. The Sons of Sun stopped some cars in their tracks. Though the colours differ from the usual orange bright flame, each one of the 3 different colours are appointed with its different purpose. Neighbours of the orange suns, which were held in a tall vessel. I turned the corner of the street several blocks down, away from the home in which I lived with my parents. One of the reasons I still live with them is really due to not having the funds to afford a home for myself. And another reason is because I am in a state of disquietude and cannot bear to leave them alone with this criminal on the loose. Plus, they were more than eager to keep me with them a while longer. Some guys at the office joke about it, like I am some spoiled baby, since I am 28 years old, but I don't care. I'd rather have to deal with that than lose a member of my family again. I don't think I could live with that reality if it ever did come to light. My life revolves around this one person, a person who has no heart, no empathy, and definitely is a devil on his own. This brings a transcendent feeling to my own soul. This person's actions are perpetuating this vicious cycle of violence, letting out brutality upon London and its people. I just hope this cretin isn't in the mood to end someone's life. I have no clue who, when, or how it may occur, and that's what scares me. Chapter 5. Superfluous Officers. I had shortly arrived at the police department after my traverse from home. The windows gleamed the reflection of the street, lined with some parked vehicles and scenery along the paths. On entering through the front door, I was greeted with peering faces at my arrival by Officer Bradley and Officer Astrid. Officer Bradley was in that same unwashed dark blue uniform. The only way I knew it was unwashed was because of the old coffee stain from a previous morning that didn't look washed out at all. Probably too busy guzzling down beer after work to be worried about washing clothes. Polished silver buttons lined down from the top to the waist, ready to burst from his rapidly changed oversized figure. His face wasn't any better, old and crusty with eye boogers still intact, like some priceless relic you preserve. His eyebrows were off. The left eyebrow was half missing and more fuzzy than the other. His lips were more cracked than the dirt during drought season. It didn't even look like skin anymore, since there wasn't even any pink, fleshy color to it, just grayish lips. Astrid, on the other hand, was like looking at fire and ice, skinny almost to a point of concern. He lost his determination to build muscle a while back, and it was starting to reflect on him. He wore the same outfit as me and Bradley. The difference was that his uniform could probably fall off of his skin like meat that's so tenderly cooked that it falls off the bone. His hat looked more refurbished, a golden crest near the front of the forehead and stretched up tall like a top hat, only dome-like, and dark blue hard material all around, with the golden law enforcement badge of an officer implanted smack dab in the middle of the hat. "Morning, Officer Bradley, Officer Astrid," I said, following with a laid-out hand. "Morning to you too, Gregory." Astrid shook my hand. "Pretty exciting day, isn't it, Gregory?" Officer Bradley added with a firm handshake, which one cannot let go of even if you tried. "Yes, it certainly is. We finally have a lead on these missing people cases, I believe," I remarked in a luminous half-smile, showing some teeth. "Remember, Gregory, that this is only a hunch. These missing people could be a whole nother subject, or it could be more than one person causing them. Heck, it could even just be runaway kids tired of their parents," said Bradley with a morning breath of black coffee that makes you a bit agitated. "Well, that hunch I've got, I'm 100% sure it's the same person who committed that homicide on my sister long ago." "Well, there is only one way to find out, Gregory. The Chief Inspector, Cutter, has given us the green light in order for us to use the telephone box of the office," said Astrid. "While you two get busy with that, I've got to go talk to the sergeant. Supposedly, there are rumors of a riot soon to break out these days. They need all the men they can get on standby, though it could be months from now." Bradley expressed an angst to his tone. "Okay, Bradley, you take care. Me and Astrid will get to it right away," I stated, as the Astrid followingly remarked with a caught-off tone, Yeah, Godspeed, Bradley, and keep your pecker up. Don't want you to get stepped on by a riot stampede." Bradley gave one look back at both of us and laid eyes on me as he then added, "Good luck with that call, you two. Though being a spoiled baby that you are, you'll probably get your answer served on a silver platter, eh, Gregory?" He teasingly remarked with a smirk on his face that made me want to rip it off and wear it to see how he'd like his little sick joke thrown back at his stupid, ancient, deformed face. Damned bastard has nothing better to do than just tease. What a swine. In my time of me brewing offensive thoughts toward Bradley, his lard ass was already walking out of our sight and away he went. Secretly, I was hoping I'd hear a loud yelp from tripping or something like that. Maybe I shouldn't have taken it too personally now that I think of it. It's whatever. "You okay there, Gregory? You seem really pissed." Did his teasing get to you again? "No, it's fine. I am already over it, Astrid. Sometimes he's just something else." "Don't take it too personally. You know the man dreads to do anything. He's always lazy from doing nothing, so a teasing, bickering comment is what he uses to kill time." Yeah, he is pretty damn lazy. I mean, the man didn't even wash out the stain on his clothes. Can you believe that? I don't think I paid too much attention to notice that detail, but I believe you. And honestly, I don't know why, but I like saying that. It's fun.
You like saying what, exactly? I ask in a confused tone. What you just said, you know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not sure why, but those words feel good to roll off your tongue, Astrid said, then adding, honestly, I might just start saying that from now on. No, actually, I have settled on it. It is now my new use of words. Sure, whatever makes you happy, Astrid. Now, should we continue with what we're supposed to do? If the chief caught us talking for this long, don't you think we'd be in line for an ass-whooping, Astrid? I said. I was a bit anxious and annoyed in my tone. Right you are. We must be going back to that phone call.
Chapter 6. The Call. Astrid and I headed deeper into the office where the telephone box hung. Thanks to Mr. Thomas, we have the coffin manufacturer's personal information to reach out to him. Who should do the phone call, and who should write down important information? Astrid intriguingly stated. I can do the talking. You should take notes over the important details if you can overhear on the phone. If not, I'll tell you once we finish our conversation. Okay, sounds good to me. I reached in my right-hand pocket, rummaging through for the note Thomas gave me. Once successful, I pulled the note out and entered the digits into the telephone box's hard, stubborn buttons, one by one. All the numbers had been entered, and we waited for a pickup from the other end. Anything yet, Gregory? No, not yet. I'll give it another minute before we try again later. A few seconds went by in silence. The hot breathing of me and Astrid filled the room. My nose even whistled a bit with each exhale. Probably something sick stuck up my nose. We continued to stand there in awkward silence, admiring the wall and ceiling as if it were something beautiful and entertaining. Time ticked on and felt like an eternity, though it had been less than a minute. You should probably just hang up, Gregory. There seems to be no one there. Yeah, I guess you're right. Damn, I said in a disappointed tone, followed by the click of the phone, where I hung it back on the place it hangs. What now, Gregory? Wait, if I remember correctly, when Thomas handed me the note, he told me to call twice if he didn't answer. Supposedly, he doesn't answer anyone he doesn't know unless they call twice. That's what he told me, I said energetically. Oh, then we should try calling him again. Jot his number back in again. Maybe this time we will get a response. And so I proceeded with the action of smacking in the numbers rapidly, as if it was a game of whack-a-mole. The phone was dialing once more, and we stood by patiently. That's when we heard a voice almost blaring compared to the silence in the room. Hello? Who is this I'm speaking to? Good day, sir. This is Gregory from the Police Department of Greenwich. I have a couple of questions for you if you wouldn't mind answering. How did you get my contact information? Well, sir, you see, Thomas from the cremation facility told us about you and that you make those coffins for smaller people. Is that true? Oh, yes, I'm familiar with Mr. Thomas. Why, yes, I am the manufacturer of those coffins. May I ask, what's your name, sir? Robert Jones. Astrid was already writing down his name on paper, since the man's voice was clearly loud enough to be heard from afar. Robert, we are here to ask questions regarding an investigation of missing people. We would like to know who you sold those boxes to about 7 years ago, if you have that information available. 7 years ago. That's quite a bit of time in the past. However, I do have records of sales for tax purposes I could look into. Yes, I would appreciate it. You see, we believe the person responsible for these missing people had one of your boxes with them, and we want to narrow the suspects down to those you've sold to. Yes, I'd be happy to help. Just give me a minute to find the lists from 7 years ago, Robert exclaimed, as we waited patiently, hearing the rummaging of papers in cabinets. I found the list for that year, 1925, correct? Was that 7 years ago? Yes, sir. Could you list the names? I'm sorry to say, but at this time, I was exclusively selling to funeral homes and crematoriums.
All the names listed are of people who own these establishments around the country, like Birmingham, Northampton, Cambridge, and Bristol. Shit. So these boxes were sent out further than I thought. Yes, I'm afraid I don't sell to London exclusively. I'd be on the streets if I did. However, I don't sell to individual people without owning a faculty regarding the deceased. To make matters worse, some funeral homes and crematoriums don't actually use those particularly smaller boxes and are only temporarily used and then thrown out to be disposed of and not buried with the person. Wait, what? Why is that? I exclaimed in a concerned tone. Some families last minute decide to use different boxes, so the smaller one that they used gets thrown out and not used, meaning homeless people, or even just people who collect things, can get their hands on these if found thrown out. Damn it, I exclaimed in a frustrated tone. You wouldn't be the one causing these disappearances, would you, Robert? Whoa, what's with the accusations? I don't even own a car that can freely carry a coffin like that. How could I have done it? I only create them? I don't deliver them. Who delivers them then? I asked curiously. My son does, but he's not the kind of person to do that sort of criminal act. I've raised him well.
Yes, I am sure you have, sir. Anything else you think could be useful to us in information? That's about it, sir. I'm sorry I couldn't be much more help. Would you mind us doing a search at your place, just to be sure you're in the clear? Yes, certainly, I wouldn't mind. Just write down my address. Robert then followed with the information to his location and some of the places his son had delivered to. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your help with our investigation. It's not a problem. We can't have a menace to society running around in the streets. I agree, Mr. Robert. Well, sir, you have a great day, I said as I had hung up the phone. Did you get the important part, Astrid? Yes, I did. I have his location information, the places his company has delivered to, and name. I followed with a depressing sigh. What's the matter, Gregory? Aren't you a bit relieved we have some clues? It's not that. It's just I believed this would be smoother, more narrowed down, but now it's stretched out to Birmingham, Northampton, Cambridge, and Bristol. That'll take weeks or even months to figure out. Plus, some random people who might think keeping a thrown-out coffin is awesome might be in possession of one. All that matters, I think, is that we have somewhere to start. We've got a lead, and when we send some officers to Robert's place, we can request a copy regarding the names of people who had been sold coffins 7 years ago. Robert added with an almost enlightening tone. I guess you're right. We're not alone here. We've got other officers who can help on the case. Thanks, Astrid. Yeah, don't mention it. He smirked with a villainous grin from my gratitude. We may have a shot at finding this weasel after all. Chapter 7. Departure. After reporting back to Chief Cutter on what we currently have down, he recommended getting a search warrant for Thomas and his crematorium and making sure he isn't a suspect. We should have a warrant approved by tomorrow, ready with a group of officers to investigate his crematorium. In the meanwhile, me and Astrid are busy at work with the paperwork required for a thorough search of Robert's location. With approval in play, there is far less paperwork to do, but some nonetheless. I will be joining in the search of Robert's place tomorrow, while another group searches at the crematorium of Thomas. No stone will be unturned. However, if no evidence is found, then we will have to call in other police departments of other places out of London. However, it will be up to the staff of those departments to decide whether they would like to continue that investigation with us. Bradley was still off on his own crusade regarding the uproar of a supposed riot ready to break out. With the work depleting the time left in the day, I was getting ready to go back home for the day. I got up from my chair and stretched out with an intensity that seemed like I might grow in inches. I walked to where Astrid was busy working, also close to finishing up as I knocked on his wooden, creaking door. Hey, see you tomorrow, I told Astrid, who was still lost in his work. Though buried in his current thoughts, he made a half gesture towards me, not fully looking at me, but intending to, as if something was holding him back from looking. Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow, Gregory. He spoke as he immediately got back to doing what he was doing before, but with more focus, diverting his proportional attention from me to his work. Shortly after my interaction with Astrid, I sequentially went to sign off with my chief. Hey, Chief, I'm going to start heading out now. Sounds good, Gregory. Enjoy your night. After that, I then embarked out the front doors and down the street back home. The suns of sun were more glistening now with the evening night rolling in. Seeing their beaming sparkle made me smile a bit. Something inside me knew why I smiled, but I just couldn't remember why. It's as if the light was hypnotizing to the sockets of my soul. A zooming sound of an automobile passing by disrupted the personal silence. I looked around and continued walking down the usual path I took home every day from work. I arrived home after several minutes of my usual traverse. My parents greeted me with dinner. It wasn't as endearing as breakfast for some reason. However, that didn't mean it wasn't good. A mix of potatoes and porridge, it was settling for the mood to head to bed. I got in my room after dinner and changed for the night, retiring my uniform for the evening and hat to rest on the rack. I slammed down on the bed with a breathy exhale, which smelled of porridge, which is not appealing for someone that is full. My thoughts didn't linger. I just kept my eyes open, and slowly they closed without me realizing. I was asleep. Chapter 8. Ready, set, go. It has been 6 days now since the first hint. After recording the call, we did get confirmation that the person on the other side of the phone, who was named Robert, was in fact responsible for the creation of the coffins and has been selling them to various cemetery owners, including Mr. Thomas. This left us at a stalemate, since there were dozens and dozens of them around the country. The only thing we could check is if the manufacturer is a suspect. Today there should be a team set out to investigate Robert's faculty, and I will be volunteering to go. Well, me and Astrid both did, so we're the ones to investigate Robert. Mostly I chose this option over investigating Thomas because I didn't want him to think that I didn't trust him. He was the first person to give me a hint at this, and if it looked like I suspected him personally, it wouldn't be a good look. I would rather check on Robert's place, whom I don't know well. That morning went the same as any other, however the breakfast was a bit more basic than yesterday, which is fine with me. After breakfast, I also heard my father shouting from further inside the house that we were out of bread. I shouted back that I would try to buy some from the baker on the way back home from work. I had gone again, and now in the act of stomping along the sidewalks on my way to work at the police station. When I entered the station, Astrid still wasn't present, probably because I was early to work today. Good sleep, decent meal, and a satisfied mind. Then Cutter showed up from his office and said, "Morning, Gregory. Are you ready for your investigation today?" "Yes, Chief. I am eager to begin." "Here, Gregory. I've got the approved search warrant for Robert Jones." "Thank you, Chief. I'll make sure to take this when me and Astrid head out for the search." I convoyed to the chief with a reassuring face. "Very well, then. Is Astrid here yet?" "No, not yet, but I am I say, stopping in my tracks as Astrid walks through the front door. "Well, speak of the devil. The chief and I were just bringing you up." "Morning to you too, Gregory, Chief Cutter." He gave off a light chuckle from my impolite start to our conversation as he offered the hand to Cutter and me. "Me and Gregory here were just discussing the fact that the search warrant is ready to go, and you guys should head on your way there for a thorough investigation." "Oh, that's great, Chief, and right you are. There's no time to waste, we must be going," he uttered as he reached in his pocket for keys. He turned foot and headed out the door,
as he looked back and exclaimed, "You coming, Gregory?" "Yes, coming." I tipped my hat to the chief and hurried out the doors, and into the police car we went, with the door slam loud enough to sound like gunfire. "Are you familiar with the place, Astrid?" "I don't exactly know where it's at, but it should be around the Royal Observatory on Southeast 10th Street. So we'll cruise by there, and I am sure it won't be too troubling to find." "Let's get going then, Astrid," I spoke, as Astrid followed with powering the car and beginning to drive the vehicle towards our destination. I hadn't been in a car since me and my family went to the crematorium. It felt like forever, but it was a nice view seeing the world go by in a humanly impossible velocity. I just hope we get somewhere with this investigation, and it's not just a waste.
Chapter 9. The Search. "There's the Royal Observatory," I pointed out with my finger as if it was hard to see, which clearly wasn't. Yeah, so we must be near. We keep riding on the street in search of the location of Robert's facility. "There it is, to our left," I said, as I once more pointed out with my finger, as Astrid took a turn into the location with a description on the sign of "Handcrafted Coffins for All Sizes." We parked in front of the building and came to a stop. "You still have the warrant with you, Gregory?" "Of course I do. I wouldn't be stupid enough to forget. I mean, do you take me as someone stupid or something?" I pronounced with an offended gesture, which made me make a snarling face at him. "Geez, I didn't mean to offend. I was just genuinely asking. We have to present it to Robert. Don't take it so personally," he said with a concern, which made me feel a bit guilty and embarrassed how I had broken out like that. "Let's just go inside." We got out of the vehicle and made our way towards the front door, where we entered the building and were greeted by a figure inside. "Hello, how may I help you two officers?" "This is my colleague Astrid, and I am Gregory. We are here for a thorough investigation of the property." Astrid watched me with an intrigued face and an amazed look as I stated our reason for business. It made me feel a bit nervous. Maybe I was doing something wrong? "My father told me about that. He said he was on the phone with the police department. Yes, we have been expecting you." "Oh, you're the son? Could you state your name, sir?" blurted out Astrid, stepping up from behind in a cocky way, which sort of gave me an ick. "My name is Emerson. I'm the son of the man you were on the phone with." "Okay, thank you, Emerson." Yeah, thanks. And, I think we will begin our search now, so if you need us, just holler, yeah?" "Perfectly fine with me. I'll let you two get to it, Officer Astrid, Officer Gregory," he said as he went back through a door leading to some lounge room. I'm guessing he's there most of the time. I don't think the coffin business is very busy. Me and Astrid split up searching for any clues, and Astrid asked Emerson for his father, which he then met up with out back of the building where he was loading coffins into a vehicle for transport. Meanwhile, I stopped searching for clues around the building, which I had no clue what it would look like, so I just diverted my attention to Emerson. "Hey, Emerson, your father said you were the delivery driver. Are you sure you're not the culprit?" "Heavens, no. I would never do such absurd things." "Do you own any guns, knives, ropes?" "Good Lord, Mary and Joseph, of course not. You can check my delivery vehicle if you'd like. It's out back where my father is, if you don't believe me." He expressed as if he was accused of lighting the world on fire. It's a surefire way to get people to show their true colors, and for now, it seems he's clean. "Oh, I think Officer Astrid's out there too. Well, come with me. I can't have you in the building alone while we are both outside. You might try to hide your tracks or something." "Okay, I'll go, but I promise I didn't do anything." I smirk on my way out to the back. I had really gotten under his skin by now. His voice is shakier than an earthquake. "That's the truck I use. My dad was even loading some up for the next selling batch before you guys got here."
Thanks. I'll get to investigating. Just stay put. I approached the vehicle that Emerson pointed out, and sure enough, Astrid and Robert were in close proximity to the vehicle. Coffins lined up ready to be picked up and thrown over onto the vehicle. Everything Emerson described pretty much added up. Good day, Robert. I see you've met my colleague, Astrid. Hope he isn't pissing you off already. Yeah. You just don't let up, do you, Greg? Astrid rolled his eyes in a playful tone. You must be Gregory, the gentleman I spoke on the phone with. Pleasure to meet you. He shot a hand out as I clasped it with mine. The texture of his hand told stories of experience. His hand felt coarse, and it told me without talking that he was no stranger to splinters. The hand was so thick and dry to the touch. I thought it was insulated in thickness. I couldn't even feel body heat emanate from it. Same goes here. I shook his hand with a fierce grip, unsure he could even feel it. If you don't mind, I'm going to search out this vehicle, and then I'll be out of your hair. Take all the time you'll need, Gregory. It's no disturbance.
Robert gestured his hand towards the vehicle with a welcoming smile. I went to the door of the vehicle and started a thorough check-through. After a while of searching and overhearing Robert and Astrid's almost girl-gossiping conversation, I hopped out and closed the vehicle's door. Well, nothing that seems off here. However, would you happen to have a copy of that list of people you sold to 7 years back? I would also appreciate each one's personal reach-out information listed beside them. I have a copy in my drawer. Please follow me. Can I move from this spot now? Emerson shouted out, still standing where I had told him to stay put. Yes, sorry, you may come with us, I said as Robert and Astrid chuckled a bit. I held back my laugh. I had completely forgotten about him standing there. We waited on Robert to gather his paper copies. Meanwhile, me and Astrid stuck around fiddling and admiring some of the store's decorations. The carpet was a dark blue, almost that of our uniforms. The walls were colored of a peeled tree bark color, a light tan. The lights were very dim and didn't make much of a difference for the shadows. Some chairs were present. They had a metal frame and a plastic cover to sit on, most likely placed there for waiting. They looked old and punishing. 30 minutes of sitting would probably start to hurt, with the ache getting worse by the minute. Even so, I still sat down and waited, but just as I sat down, a shout from Robert could be heard making me bolt out of my chair. I've got the papers ready for you, Officer Astrid and Gregory. Astrid was closer, so I slowed my approach as he said, Thank you, Robert, and sorry for wasting your time today. Oh, it's no worries, and I do enjoy company. It's not often people walk into the store. Astrid chuckled like his usual self. Yeah. Well, anytime you need an officer, you know where to reach us. I guess that was our cue for leaving. We will keep in touch for further questions if needed, though I highly doubt we need any. I spoke out. Okay, you two be safe on your way back. Astrid and I said goodbye to Robert and Emerson, and shortly left back to the police car. Well, Astrid, did you get any clues from this? Not even one. Damn, we had wasted a whole workday on nothing. Astrid drove us back to the police department, and we spoke to the chief cutter about our investigation. He was just as disappointed as us. However, in our time away, the other team of officers were still busy investigating the crematorium at Thomas's facility. It made sense. His building was at least twice as big compared to Robert's. At the end of the day, me and Astrid got nothing done. Chapter 10. In Search of a Witness in Town. I got off work a little while after we arrived from our investigation. Luckily, I didn't forget that my father requested bread before I got home. I went the opposite way from home, and instead towards the bakery. Several minutes of walking led to the baker's store. I grabbed the handle of the door as it made a jangle of a sound as I propped it open. Gregory! Omar! How can I help you today? Let me guess. All out of bread?
Yeah, lucky guess, I said unenthusiastically. Could I get an order of white bread? Absolutely, I'll get that real quick, he said, as he walked behind and looked through a box, pulling out a bag with loaves of white bread. Hey, Omar, I got a question. Oh my. Well, I am all ears. Do you have any info on a murderer in town? A murderer? Here in Greenwich? Not just Greenwich, but the eternity of London. Hell, maybe even further than that. Well, I certainly have not the slightest knowledge on this topic. I do apologize. Don't worry about it. It's just a stupid question. No, it's a smart question. Have you been asking people about this around town? No, I just thought I could question you. Well, you should go around asking people. Who knows, maybe some people have leads. That's not a bad idea. I'll try that. Thanks. Yeah, no problem, he said, as he then told me, that'll be 7 days for the bread. I then pulled out some coins and paid him the requested price. Omar then passed me the white loaves of bread. Pleasure doing business with you, Gregory. I wave and gesture a bye, walking out of the bakery and grabbing a newspaper from those newspaper boxes. I thought to myself about what Omar had said. Maybe asking around was the right idea. I knew some townsfolks I could ask about the subject. Going around and asking random people walking the streets this late in the afternoon wouldn't be a good look for me. Before any of that, I have to make sure I get this bread home. Only then can I go around and waste everyone's time. Thus, I scurried home, almost jogging from how quickly I was trotting down the street. I reached the house twice as long as it takes to get from the police station, since the bakery was directly in the opposite direction of our home. My knuckles pounded on the door heavily, waiting for someone to open up. The sounds of metal clicking could be heard on the other side, and the door was unlocked. My father was pleased to see that I came through with his request for bread. I told him the context brewing in my head, and I left just as fast as I had arrived. Now the question that was inquiring to me was, who do I ask first? I thought I'd start with the people closest in distance and end with the furthest away in case it got too late in the night. It wasn't dark yet, but I could tell the sun was probably close to setting even though it wasn't visible. Weirdly enough, the whole week had been cloudy. I settled on the idea to talk to the gas station attendant. I know him somewhat from frequent visits. Though costs are low, it's not easy to purchase anything with the current economy. One time I was in a bad struggle, and the gas station attendant helped me out and said it was on the house. Nice, respectable man. I spoke with the gas station attendant. However, there was no luck. His response was just about the same as the baker's. No clue about any murders or damned coffins. I proceeded to ask other townsfolk for any other reference or knowledge they may have and know of the coffins, but they were mostly all the same in responses. Yay me. Mrs. Flores from the bank, of course, knew nothing about the coffins, let alone ever going to a cemetery in her whole life. Both had no useful responses, but I kept trying other townsfolks with caution, since the murderer could potentially be anyone, even our neighbors. I then paid the doctor a visit, the most trusted person in our town. So nice. People sometimes schedule an appointment just to have a chat. A charmful man he is. I let him know about the case I'm working on and the information I had received in hopes to find any evidence of this murderer. Unfortunately, Dr. Stakes knew nothing of the case and of no recent murders. All the appointments and procedures had filled and blocked his mind of the horrors happening in the outside world. I guess work can be overwhelming. I was heading out the door to ask others as the doctor told me someone was on the phone for me. Hey, Gregory, someone's on the phone and they want to talk to you. Thanks, Dr. Stakes, I said as I picked up the phone. Son, what are you doing out so late with a murderer on the loose? My father said in an angered but worried tone. Sorry, Dad. I'm asking some people around if they have any knowledge of the murders going on. Maybe then I could avenge my sister, I said in an uneasy tone.
Let the professionals handle it. I'm pretty sure they will get whoever did it and put them in the electric chair. I don't want to lose you too, son. Please come home.
Father, I am part of the professionals. I'm privately investigating this case. Frank, get over here. I need help with the dishes, my mom said in the background to my father with a stressed-out tone. Okay, well, please come home soon, my son. I have to go now, and be safe on your way back. Thanks, Father. I'll head home then, since it is getting a bit late. Thanks, son. I'll see you here then. Coming, honey, my father said as he hung up the phone. That'll be a shilling for my service, Mr. Stakes exclaimed. But I didn't buy or order anything? You took up a doctor's useful time. A doctor's time is crucial and costly. But you don't have any customers or… forget it. Here, I said, as I gave him a shilling. So much for being a nice guy, bastard. After arriving home, I thought to myself and sat at my desk thinking about who it could be. Fiddling with the coin in change I'd left for the day and some paper, I was lost for any idea on who the culprit could be. No one I had talked to didn't have the slightest idea of what murders were occurring in this small town of Greenwich. The manufacturer came out clean. Hope seemed more narrow by the hour. I soon started to feel drowsy after staring at the newspaper I had snatched on my way out of the baker's shop. Too tired to read its content as I started to slowly close my eyes and eventually fell asleep at my desk.
Chapter 11. Blue Lantern. It has been 7 days since I'd received my hint regarding who the murderer was, and yet I still had not a single grasp on who it could be. I was always amazing at puzzles and riddles as a kid, but this time it's a real one with a lot of lives on hand. The longer I wait, the more lives potentially get taken. As I awoke from my sleep, I cleared the drool on my face, creating a long, sticky string of saliva that stretched from my finger to the newspaper. As a result, the pages were all wet and crumbly now. Some parts of it were unreadable since I'd ripped it from it being in a fragile state. The scent of my saliva was nowhere near pleasant. It had a reeking smell of fermented bad breath. From what was still visible on the page was an invitation to some public party. A ball was being held at the Soho nightclub. The Blue Lantern was what the club was called, having an event for the reason of an escapist sanctuary of the terrible poverty occurring in our world. This place could potentially be filled with hundreds of people, and children, which are typically the victims the murderer goes after the most. All the missing people have mostly been children. Some adults, but the majority are children by a large margin. If the murderer were to strike, it would be this place. I don't usually like large crowds, but what else am I going to do for the weekend? If I attend, I'll keep myself busy for today at least. In case things do go south, I'll bring my handcuffs too. I must be quick to act, because if it happens, I can then capture this lunatic person who did it and lock them away. This thought was more than encouraging, so I stood up from my desk where I had slept for the night. I was still stuck on the idea of this mysterious perpetrator. Every day that passed was lost time and a larger risk for the murderer's next victim. This would have to be the day I pin this bastard down. Man or woman or some deviled creature, didn't matter to me. I want them to feel the power of justice. I hurried to put on the uniform from yesterday. My actions were driven by adrenaline. That's when my stupid, absolutely stupid self realized it was Saturday. I don't work on Saturdays. So I guess I had to go to that party today undercover. I went back to my closet in search of something else to wear at the ball. I had a plaid black suit, and that was about it. Several years old and worn out on some of the fabric around the buttons. Loose strings around edges of the sleeves hanging and swaying with each light movement. It wasn't clean, that's for sure,
but it would do. The party is supposed to be for all classes, wealthy, middle class, rich. I don't think I'll stick out like a sore thumb. I was finally dressed for the ball. Black cheap dress pants that almost seemed artificial. Black leather shoes with white socks. Just regular white socks mostly, since this particular pair was still whiter than my other more worn-out pairs. A white dress shirt, which visually was not new. That's because it wasn't. I was ready, and it was starting in about an hour. I had slept in pretty late. It was around noon. I used the telephone and called for a cab. I was hoping I'd see one buzzing by, but that didn't happen to my liking. 15 minutes till the arrival, they said, so I waited it out back home. A pang of anxiety hit me. Who would I meet there? Was this a waste of time again? That's what everything felt like, just a big, fat waste of time. Instead of things feeling like a step forward, they felt like a step backwards. But on the positive side, at least, I might meet new people. I don't really ever socialize. At my age, it's a bit concerning. If I don't find someone to spend the rest of my life with, I may just live with being lonely forever. Maybe I'd find a lady tonight, who knows? But that isn't the plan. The real desire is to catch this murderer before he takes any more victims. There haven't been many missing people recently, so they might strike soon, and if they were to, this would be the place. Overcrowded and dark, since it was barely lit inside, something a murderer would want if they were to commit such a roguish act. My cab beeped outside with its horn and startled me. I made sure I gathered everything I needed, including a pair of handcuffs and my badge.
Chapter 12. The Ball. I arrived at the ballroom by car and thanked the driver as I got out of the vehicle. While I walked in, I saw hundreds of people, and the children alone at their own tables. The age groups were almost agreed upon to be divided into their respective range. While the parents danced to the music in the ballroom, the children busied themselves with horseplay and conversations among themselves. I noticed that there is no security, not a single officer or detective, at least visually. There were too many people in the way to tell if one was present further out. In the distance was a bar of some sort, alcoholic drinks and some finger foods. I went for a light dose of wine, which was unlabeled. Grabbing the wine, I headed down to a table near the group of youngsters. It would be best to keep a close eye on them. On my way to the table, someone stood in front of me. That person was none other than Officer Bradley in a clean dark red suit with black dress pants. A black dress shirt underneath with a red bow tie. His fat figure made his attire lose some of its magic. He just didn't look as good as I would look in it. That stupid old face and the half-missing eyebrow was still there. I wish I could just wipe it off his smug face. "Gregory, is that you? You're here at a party. That's unlike you." "Yeah, I don't get out much, but I am here undercover." "Undercover for what?" "That murderer. I have a hunch that he's going to strike, and if he does, it is most likely to be here of all places." "You have been stressing about this case all week. You should take a load off and have some fun." Speaking of cases, the group that went to investigate Thomas's crematorium had the same results as you. Of course, they took longer. About 8 hours through a deep search between 3 officers. "Then I guess that means my biggest fear has come true." "I'm afraid so, Gregory." "We will have to investigate further than London. Starting Monday, you might have to tell Cutter about that suggestion, Gregory." "Damn. I guess this person we're after may not even be residing in the town of Greenwich, or London in general." "Enough about work. Go enjoy yourself, Greg. I hear there's some single woman here. Could be room for you." "I came with my wife. She's around here somewhere in the crowd," Bradley said as he looked around the room. "Thanks, but no thanks. I think I'm deciding to stay loyal to this case." "Suit yourself. Well, I shall let you get back to it," he declared as he gave me a pat on the shoulder and disappeared into the crowd. I sat down at the table where I was initially heading to before being interrupted by some bloated pig. I counted about 12 children in total, keeping track of each one every minute as I sat my ass in that white plastic chair, not keeping an eye off of them for 1 second. Those minutes turned into hours. The only entertainment was the blaring music and the constant spinning of my wine glass I had distracted myself with. I then got the urge to use the restroom as I had a drink or two from the people serving beverages to party guests. The urge became critical, so I made my way to use the restroom. I couldn't find the John over the tall crowd of people. Eventually, I located it in the right backside corner of the building. The inside walls of the restroom were a color of light beige, almost a touch of yellow. After taking a piss, I washed my hands with water and soap, dried my hands with a roller towel. Exiting the John made me think I could last another couple of hours here from that refresh. I went back to the table and sat down with a groan. Making the observation, I noticed something absolutely chilling. I only took around 2 minutes in that restroom. A child was missing. There were only 11. When I originally counted, there were 12, and one chair was pushed back as if someone had gotten up. My heart began to panic as I looked around in search of the child. Maybe their mother called out to them. Maybe he used the restroom too. No, that didn't make sense. I didn't see him on the way back. I got up and strolled in a worried rush, pushing through crowds of people just to get a better view of the place. I began to run towards the stage, but all of the adults were blocking the way with no way to hear me over the loud music. I pushed through the crowd, making some people fall as I jumped onto the stage where the music was being played by a classic band. I tell the band to stop as I signal them to cut it, and the music suddenly cuts off, leaving everyone looking up at me confused. I got nervous, but it was no time for stage fright as I yelled at the top of my lungs. "Everyone check for your children! Make sure no one is missing immediately!" I screamed in a scared and worried tone. Everyone started grouping their families together, and within a minute, one family started yelling somebody's name. "Anthony! Anthony! My boy is missing! He isn't here!" Someone yelled in the crowd. That's when I saw it. A dark doorway with a small glimpse of a child's shoe dragging into the room as it faded into dark. The room was on the farthest side from the stage, and with the crowd of people in the way, it wouldn't be easy to get there. I then ran for the doorway, as I now knew the person dragging that child wasn't the parent, but the murderer. I ran as fast as I could, pushing people down as I yelled to the father with the missing child. "He was taken this way!" He follows, running. We opened the side door exit, and in the distant fog, a tall, distant figure could be seen. And suddenly the person noticed us. They began to start the vehicle and drive away as we scurry over to the vehicle, screaming for vengeance. "No, no, not again! Not like this!" I screamed, running as fast as I could. Unfortunately, the car took off faster than we could reach it. The fog was too dark to see any features on the person, other than it looked more like a man than a woman. I fell to my knees in hate, knowing I was only several yards from getting revenge and saving another victim. With no car, I hadn't the slightest chance to catch up to him, since I took a cab to arrive at the ballroom. I could just hear the father screaming and crying in agony and blaming me for not being fast enough. Guilt is coursing through my entire embodiment, along with rage and sorrow, for he had now taken another victim. Everyone inside was panicking and scared that their children would be taken. The law enforcement was called, but far too late, for the murderer had left the scene. "What happened here, Gregory?" Astrid spoke out once he arrived. "He took one, that bastard." "You mean the killer?" "Yeah, I wasn't fast enough. He won again." "He?" Astrid asked. "Yeah, it was a man. It definitely was a man." I then ordered another cab and went on my way home in sadness and anger, confused and scared of what was to come next. I arrived home and went back to the desk where I had woken up from this morning.
The drool had dried and soaked into the newspaper. I sat down and dreadfully thought and digested what had just happened with that poor child, repeatedly feeling guilt again for messing up the chance I finally had gotten after so many years, wasted in just several seconds.
Chapter 13. Click. It has been over 2 hours since it happened, and it's now 40 minutes past 5 in the afternoon, and the sun has started to descend faintly over the thick, dark fog, making it already look like nighttime had fallen upon us. I've been thinking of what I could have done better in that scenario, still reflecting on what I did wrong and asking myself, who? I thought long and hard, and then a call interrupted my thought process. I went outside my room and into the hall to answer the call as I picked up the phone. Hello? This is Thomas. I will be heading over to deliver the ashes. It has been 7 days. Oh, yes, this is Gregory. I'm home alone at the moment, so just knock and I'll pick it up at the doorstep, thanks. No problem, Greg. I sure will then. Talk to you soon, as he hung up the phone. I then head back over to my desk with my back hunched over like how I usually walk, as my head is filled with so many emotions and thoughts. I ask myself the same questions and answers to myself, lost in my own thoughts. But then a peculiar thought entered my head. How? How could they have stolen him within 2 minutes? That was when it struck me. It wasn't just bad luck. I was being watched the entire time. The murderer must have known who I was and waited until I went to use the John. In just those 2 minutes, he took the time to complete such a vicious deed. To think that all it takes is 2 minutes. I then realized that if the murderer knows who I am, then I must know who he is. The murderer is someone I might know. This shook me to my core, just thinking the murderer might be someone I know well or as a friend. Could it be that stupid-headed excuse of a law enforcement officer Bradley? Maybe that's why he teased me so much. Maybe he was intentionally ruining my life. I had to get out of the house. This murderer must know where I live as well. I started to gather some important things. As I finished gathering some of my belongings, I started to head for the door. That's when I thought it would be a good idea to share my newly put-together thoughts with Astrid. I detoured to the telephone and dialed in Astrid's number, as I remembered he should be working at the scene of the crime. I instead called the nightclub and was put on hold until they got Astrid on the phone. A rattling sound came from the phone not a minute after. It was Astrid. Gregory? Astrid, I was brainstorming and it clicked. What clicked? You see, I was undercover at the nightclub for several hours. I got up to use the restroom once. In that instance of a 2-minute bathroom break was the exact moment that child was kidnapped or murdered even. I don't think it was a coincidence, Astrid. You're thinking this person had an eye on you, huh? Astrid said. Not only that, I believe whoever did it also knows who I am. I wasn't in my uniform, so how else would they know I was a cop? That's a really good, Astrid said as a sound disturbed his clear voice from being heard. It was a firm knocking at the front door. It must be my parents arriving back from their grocery trip, or Mr. Thomas, which I had almost forgotten that he was coming to deliver my grandfather's cremains. I left the phone hanging so I could go back to it once I retrieved the package. I swung the door open, and sure enough, it was Mr. Thomas. Well-dressed was an understatement. A clean, new black suit, clearly outranking mine in style. A tall man with blonde, golden hair unlike my black hair, and the golden glow of his watch and hair burned bright in my eyes as the fog entered the room from the outside. The tall man dressed in a black 3-piece suit with a rose pin with multiple rings on his fingers. The thing that stood out the most were the bright red eyes and his devilishly charming smirk. A brand new dress shirt in black cherry red.
a thick black overcoat which draped to his knee joints. The inside was colored and materialized with dark red linen. The pants were equally matched in luxury, a black silky material. From head to toe, it was luxury. He had two things: the enclosed package with my grandfather's cremated remains in a jar held in his left hand. In his right hand was a medium-sized, sharp, silver-bladed knife.
Chapter 14. The Bauer's Hour. The most important words to know who the murderer was had been forgotten in my head. The words Mr. Thomas said, My, are you going to open a new cemetery? Well, we do need one, since this is the only one near anywhere around London. Those words were the answer to who the murderer really is. If there is only one cemetery and crematorium in all of London, then the man running the place is responsible for the murders happening. The person running both places is no other than Mr. Thomas himself. He was the murderer. It didn't make sense. The police group searched the whole place. I told you I'd come by in 7 days, and now I'm here, Gregory, Mr. Thomas said. Where is Anthony, the child you kidnapped? Oh, don't worry. I haven't turned him to dust yet, but I will once I finish with you. You knew I was onto you since the day we met, didn't you? Of course I did, since you work for the detectives. Luckily, they don't question me since I've built such a great reputation with them and the law enforcement. I offer discounts, remember? But how? How did you get around the police investigation? Those police officers searched every inch of that place. Where could you have hidden all your victims? Where are you hiding my sister? Is she still alive? Take a wild guess. He spoke in a way which hurt my soul. Those words spoke the answer, the most hideous answer I could ever possibly imagine to hear. No. No, you didn't. Tell me you didn't. How else could I hide my victims? It was the most efficient way, and I disguised it as normal work. You scum. I'll make sure you never hurt anyone ever again. Oh, son, don't worry. I won't hurt anyone until I've hurt you like I did to your small, helpless little sister. What exactly did you do to her? I said in an angered and worried tone. Well, just like the others, I sliced their hands and legs, fully conscious, and left them to rot in those small coffins for a couple of days. Their body parts would have to be dismembered, but only the non-fatal cuts so they would fit in them. Killing immediately would be no fun. I fed and nurtured your sister in her motionless state. No legs, no arms, just pain for 2 days in those coffins. I noticed after 2 days, most cannot bear the strength to squirm in pain anymore. Once that fun is over, then I would burn them alive in the crematorium. I get satisfaction from it. The idea of being in control of someone's life thrills me. Such fragile animals we are. Our bodies are made to be killed. We are meant for death. I love that notion so much that I grew an addiction towards killing. A dying person's face is so pretty once it has stopped moving. Mr. Thomas said in an angered tone. I had tears in my eyes hearing and knowing my sister was murdered horribly by this menace. I then looked at him full of anger, to a point where my legs started trembling and my gums bled from how much pressure I was putting on my teeth from biting down. I'm going to make sure they put you in the electric chair so you can be punished for what you've done. Shut up, you meddling kid, Mr. Thomas said, as he started rushing towards me with his knife in hand. I started to run around the couch of the living room to escape from him, as we were almost playing Ring Around the Rosies, but if I got caught, I would be the only one falling down. With the couch used as an obstacle, he gets impatient and instead jumps on top of the couch and nicks my ear, cutting a deep groove.
Blood gushed from my ear down to my suit. "You bastard," I yelped in pain, but too furious to care about it now. I moved to the left, closer to the front door, in order to try and escape. He dashed towards me. However, I took off my blazer and threw it on him, giving me just enough time to have walked out the door and ran for it as he threw the knife at me, cutting my legs split open a bit as I jumped and fell from the pain with a hard landing onto the street's cement.
I tried to get up and I managed to successfully, but that's when I felt a sharp pain in my left shoulder. Mr. Thomas had picked up the knife without me knowing and had already made it to where I was. He started stabbing me in my shoulder multiple times, and he slashed my arm before making me fall on the pavement once more. I look up, scared to see the tall man in the fog over top of me as he stabs me once more in the palm of my hand in an attempt to stop the incoming knife, completely making it through my hand, seeing the visible silver blade tip shimmer on the other side of my hand as he wiggled the knife back and forth, cutting my hand even more. I screamed in agony with the worst pain I had ever felt as my life was near its end. My mouth gurgled with leaking blood as I tried to speak. I was about to experience the fate my sister had to go through. "Thomas, please, don't," I say, struggling to speak with blood in my mouth. "You don't have to do this. I can get you help. It's not too late." "Shut it, you arrogant kid. You really think some words are going to change who I am?" Mr. Thomas raised his knife once more. "You're only trying to stall for your life a little longer. You've lost in life." No, I am not. Wait! I can help you. Hell, I will be on your side." "How do I know you're not just bluffing? What can a meaningless animal like you provide for me? Absolutely nothing." "I can see it on your good-for-nothing face. I'll make sure to cut it off and wear it myself once I take you back with me." "Who let you speak to me, you arrogant animal? Who let you even look at me? Why don't you look at yourself?" Thomas said as he shanked my eye with his knife, impaling my left eyeball and tearing it out of my body. I yelled so loud I had lost my voice. The pain had spiked to a level which my mind couldn't comprehend. Blood gushed out of my eye like a sprinkler. I had lost so much blood that I felt dizzy. "Look here, Gregory. What do you see? Is it your own eye looking at you?" Thomas had pierced my eyeball from behind the socket and positioned it to face me. I could see my own eye without a mirror. My blood-covered eyeball was dripping red and had a deep cut where the pupil was. It was sickening, and I wanted to puke, but I was already busy puking blood from every wound. I rolled in pain with sounds filled with ache. "I'm really sorry, Gregory, but I hope you've had a good life. Yours ends now." Thomas diverted his attention to my police badge that had fallen when I threw my blazer at him. He picked it up and stood tall, reading the contents of my name. "Gregory Bermuda Bauer." He smirked devilishly. "Soon that name will be all over the papers, It'll read, Gregory Bermuda Bauer, gone missing, dead, runaway." He laughed as he imagined my name being on the headlines of the newspaper after my death. Noticing his distracted state of mind, I built enough strength to make up the words. "Go to hell," I said as I kicked him with both legs, dropping him to the ground as I slowly got up with pain. I leaked blood as if I was an overturned bucket of red paint. The feeling was cold. My body was shaky, my vision was blurred, and worst of all, I could feel pain everywhere. Unfortunately for me, Mr. Thomas gets up faster than me without a struggle. "You are just a stubborn little prick, aren't you? I'm going to make sure this knife goes through your heart so it'll never beat again. Then I'll burn you to a crisp, just like your grandfather and your little sister." Mr. Thomas lunges at me, pins my body to the street pavement as I struggle to maintain any strength as I accept my fate. There was no point in struggling.
My energy was fading, and my body was giving out. Death was coming for me. I'll give you the knowledge of who exactly killed you before your soul vanishes. Remember me in hell. I, Thomas, am the one to send you to the afterlife. At last you realized there was no point of struggle. You only delayed what was inevitable for you. Certain death, my friend. You nitwit! Who did you think you were, believing you would be victorious? I've always been able to eliminate those who threaten to expose me, and I will continue to be successful. A loud groan came from Mr. Thomas, as I heard a loud zoom zipping through the air, making me and Thomas look up. The sound of screeching black crows flew overhead after the loud sound. Sure enough, it was the law enforcement I had called after packing my belongings. Mr. Thomas began shaking after seeing a bloody, gaping hole in his three-piece suit, with a darker red smearing all over his black cherry-red dress shirt and black suit.
This is all your fault.
If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be experiencing this pain, you maggot, Mr. Thomas said as he stabbed my shoulder, almost completely disjointing my limb from my body, cutting back and forth, digging deeper with each deep, rolling cut. I roared in pain. My shoulder was basically about to fall off from how badly my flesh was cut into and separated. 3 more bullets were fired, and Mr. Thomas, he yelled in pain and stood up as blood rained from him. Mr. Thomas rushed towards the law enforcement officers with his blood-soaked silver knife. The officers fired at will with countless bullets. Mr. Thomas fell unconscious as I laid in pain, unable to move. My vision was blurry, but I could see the 2 officers cuff Mr. Thomas and take him into their vehicle. As they came back for me, I started to fade to the concerned echoes of their voices, and I lost consciousness, completely blacking out.
Chapter 15. Zap. I open my eyes, but only see through one. My left eye is missing. My shoulder is hanging on by strands of flesh, and my body isn't able to move very much. I'm covered in stitchings and clothes.
Gregory!
Someone spoke. Who's there?
It's me, Astrid and Bradley. We rescued you.
Rescued wasn't the word to use here. I wasn't rescued. I was just kept alive. My body was immobile. Only small movements were allowed in my power. Thanks, Astrid. Thanks, Bradley, I declared, feeling somewhat guilty, since I considered Bradley to be the murderer. Hey, son, how are you doing? It's me, your mother, and your brother and father are over there in those chairs. My mother spoke as if I had the strength to put up with anything, let alone speak. I tried to squint my eye at my brother and father to get a visual of them sitting by the wall. Thanks, Mum. I'm okay. Just in really bad shape.
How could you go home all alone while we were out? We thought you'd be gone all day at that party.
Yeah, it's my fault. I felt frustrated and went home. I didn't do my job right, and My mother cut me off as she said,
Shh, you need to rest, dear. Keep your energy.
I considered her words and liked hearing them. I became silent and closed my one eye, drifting to sleep. It has been 3 days since I found out Mr. Thomas was the culprit, and by some miracle, I have lived with so many wounds. I guess since they weren't fatal wounds, I still breathe, but that's about it. However, Thomas also survived, and is going to meet the electric chair today. I heard he is just as bad in shape as me. I've asked the doctors for a special request, to see the end of the man who murdered so many innocent people. Anthony, the kidnapped child from the party, was found locked in a coffin and was saved, but all the other victims still have unknown whereabouts. My parents and brother were all terrified out of their minds, seeing my wounds, since they thought I wouldn't make it. They then ordered us a cab to see this nightmare meet his doom after such a long wait for revenge. We had arrived, and I slowly made my way into the entrance of the place, where several families were to see the beast lose its life. He had taken too many lives far too soon, so now he shall be taken too. I get allowed to enter the same room as him to have my final words with Thomas. "Do you regret what you have done, Thomas?" I ask. "A part of me doesn't regret it, since it was quite the experience. But mostly I do feel regret now. It wasn't really worth it, Gregory. And I'm sorry about your sister. I didn't even plan to murder her in particular. I just intended to take a child's life that day. I was roaming the streets around the school in hopes to find a lone child to quench my satisfaction I thirsted for. And your sister was the first I had seen. I am very sorry, Gregory," Thomas said with a saddened tone, with tears in his eyes. "I appreciate your apology, but that small amount that you don't regret is what I can't forgive. Have a great time in hell. I hope you burn well," I said, as the operators are signaled to begin the process of the electric chair. The doctor backed up my wheelchair for me, since I was incapable of movement. The whirring sound of electricity begins as it fills the chair with an immense amount of electricity, making Mr. Thomas shrivel, twitch, and jump in the chair, unable to scream from how much pain he was experiencing. Finally, this town of Greenwich was safe. The people and families of Greenwich won't have to worry any more. A man dressed in black stood up in front of the audience and declared his statement proudly. 6'3", blonde hair, age 37, named Thomas Brewy Bahama, is now deceased.
Chapter 16.
Cold. Yesterday was the death sentence of Thomas, and my family has experienced less stress and are more at ease. I got a promotion in the detective department, and now I'm the head of the detective department. That is, of course, if I get out of this hospital. In the shape I am in, I don't know if I'll ever move again. This town of Greenwich is more peaceful than ever, and with another celebration starting next week to celebrate my heroic efforts. Of course, Astrid and Bradley, that saved my life, received medals for heroic acts and putting down Thomas. They will also get nominated on stage at the Town Hall Ballroom next week, alongside me. Astrid and Bradley are currently busy dealing with riots of some sort, supposed hunger marches from the unemployed. I would help, but I'm stuck here. With all that said and done, finally knowing that I've avenged my sister, I can now put the past behind me. Before they had left my hospital room, I thanked them, of course. "Thank you, guys. I really appreciate your help the other day. I would have had my lights out if it weren't for you two." "No problem, Gregory. Someone had to finish the deed," said Bradley quite proudly. "Yeah, it's our pleasure. Yeah. Thanks to you for finding out who the culprit was. Whenever you're in trouble, make sure to call us again. Yeah. Astrid said with his habit of saying yeah constantly. No one really likes him because of it, the poor fella. Well, I didn't really find out. He sort of just came to me. One moment I am on the phone with you, Astrid, and the next I have my eye torn out by the guy we crossed out as a suspect. Again, thanks, guys. I really do appreciate it. I'll make sure to give you guys a call if I'm in any danger again. Or maybe if I'm in the mood for a game of cards. I say as we all laugh together. All right, Gregory. Me and Bradley best be going. We will see you next week, spoiled baby. Bradley smirked. You guys go on ahead. Don't want the chief getting pissed off now. Later, Gregory. See ya, I said in a low and saddened voice. The silence of the room was loud. All the dust had settled. It was just me and my useless, existing body. How can life be exciting when you can't live it well? I have no one to talk to, nowhere to go. I just wonder how much longer I'll have to wait. I tried turning my head towards the window of the room. The view was bright, and it almost hurt my eye. The sun beamed down on the window, casting a sunbeam on the floor of the room. Some birds were chirping. Shadows of their flying could be seen on the distant building's wall. A couple landed on the windowsill and started talking. Their conversation was loud through the thick, transparent window. A knock on the room door occurred. The pearl-white door swung open, and the nurse came in. She brought me a meal of some sort hidden under the container. The smell filled the room. She opened the container, revealing rice pudding. It wasn't my favorite, but after what I had gone through, it seemed like food for the rich. "Here's some utensils, and I'll go get you some water," she said as she hastily got up, making me feel almost envious of her speed. "Wait!" I shout. "Could you get me tea instead?" "Yes, I'll get that instead. I'll be right back." I let out a sigh from exhaustion. Speaking or moving towards something in my condition took too much energy. I reached out for the fork, since it was the closest utensil to me. I grasped the handle, almost dropping it on the floor. I enjoyed my rice pudding. Once finished, I set the tray aside, and then a thought appears in my head. It wasn't a normal thought. It was dangerous. I slowly removed the clothes and bandages covering my wounds. I also removed the cloth around my shoulder, which is almost cut clean through. The wounds are healing, no more bleeding. I start to cry, and a smile comes to my face. My hand gripping the fork trembles. I move my hand closer to a wound located on my hip. I pierce my healing skin with the fork. The bed I lay on turns to red. The ground beneath me grows a pool in the color red. The sound of dripping liquid echoes in my ears. My vision blurs once more, as it did before. The fork, which was held in my hand, falls and creates a resonating cacophony. My muscles relax. My one eye closes. My body feels cold. Cold, cold.